And what we are watching at the moment is a debate about the existence of God between Richard Dawkins and Terry Pratchett, presided over by a chap called John Kenny, who was the master of Balliol, my college in Oxford, and it is happening in the Sheldonian Theatre in Oxford, where many long years ago, dressed in a long gown and with a mortarboard upon my head, in Latin I received my degree. I need to have a commercial break to point out that this video is sponsored by the Alhambra Brewery.
Unwillingly.
They don't know about that yet. Indeed, there are many things that are not known yet. To quote in fact, Donald Rumsfeld possibly should be asked theological questions more often, because he has famously talked about there are known knowns and there are unknown knowns, but also there are known unknowns and there are unknown unknowns. Now it is possible. Then is God therefore a known unknown, in the sense that we have a concept of God, but we have no idea what God is? Or could God be an unknown unknown? Because if there is to be a God, in fact, probably we would not be able to guess what it might be that had created the universe, for example. And this is different from the known unknown of religious believers, because they know that they believe in something that is unknown.
Yes, actually the importance of Donald Rumsfeld as a modern theologian and philosopher will be probably re-evaluated once the people will stop erroneously believing that actually he was speaking about politics.
Correct.
He was just foreseeing, another metaphysics.
Yes, he was speaking in a philosophical and general way, which most people misunderstood completely and therefore mocked him, mocked his wisdom.
It was an allegory, and actually also God-believing people usually consider the Bible as a kind of a collection of allegories. So Donald Rumsfeld is actually like writing a new chapter of a future possible modern gospel.
Well, in fact, it would have to be a revision of the Gospel of St. John, because that is the most philosophical part of the Bible. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is a philosophical statement about logos, from which comes the word logic.
But it could have been a very literary statement, because in the beginning there was a word that you would hear and you didn't understand why, and this word that you were hearing and you didn't know why was God.
I think you are alluding to the theories of Julian Jaynes in The Origin of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind, which should be retitled The Origin of God in the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind, because according to Jaynes, originally we received instructions from one side of our head, which were carried out by the other side of our brain operating the body.
Yes, we should also tell Terry Pratchett about that.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Well,
they seem very convinced. We have been listening for a while to this sterile discussion about the existence of their confusion about the idea of God, actually, I would say.
Yes.
Because nobody had a very clear statement in this discussion.
Well, no, not really. They were trying to be too polite to each other.
And so the argument of the existence of voices in the head, which could be erroneously confused with the voice of God, has not been mentioned even once.
No.
Even though it's Oxford.
It is very strange and inexplicable. But we noticed that Richard Dawkins, in his book, The God Delusion, only alluded to Julian Jaynes rather sarcastically for 1.5 lines. This was one of the reasons why I did not buy the book.
This is also one of the reasons I didn't buy the book. And actually we were together when this happened, and this happened in the bookstore of Oxford. By coincidence.
By coincidence, yes. The first thing I looked at in the book was the index. And I looked at Jaynes, and I turned to the page, and what did I find? 1.5 lines of sarcasm, which is completely inadequate.
This has been very disappointing because I have a good opinion about Dawkins, and this was a kind of a note out of the symphony.
Yes, of course it was a popular book, not as popular as his subsequent book, which is lying over there by accident, called The Magic of Reality, which is an explanation of the world, the universe and everything for the benefit of intelligent teenagers.
Do you think Terry Pratchett has read The Origin of Consciousness in the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind?
I think that is a slightly cruel thing to ask, because you know the problem that Terry has at the moment with
you mean
yes,
but he looks quite
well, actually he looks quite on the ball, except he has a small thing hanging from his from his neck.
It's a kind of magic
magic charm.
He writes fantasy.
Yeah, this is completely right.
So this is probably a symbol connected with
yeah, with his fantasy novels. I should imagine that is the case. Alternatively, it could be one of those Christian symbols or Norse symbols of the god nailed to a tree.
Ah, that's very fetish, I think. It's because I found it always quite fetish, you know, this kind of nailed, suffering person nailed to a cross.
Yes.
I was asking myself what would have happened if, for example, his death penalty would be another one, for example, impalement, and what kind of souvenirs would people have hanging from their walls in this case?
Well, there is a lot at stake in this question, but
you don't need to answer. You know, but it's a problem. I think it could become even a theological problem.
Yes, the alternative method. Well, because of course, crucifixion was actually reserved for enemies of the Roman state. And furthermore, the Jewish authorities were not allowed to condemn anybody to be crucified. So this makes it a little bit strange to explain how Yeshua was actually crucified, unless he was a rebel against the Roman state and a Jewish freedom fighter, in which case he would have been crucified. However, the suggestion in the Bible, as the book is called, is not that he was a Jewish freedom fighter.
It comes to my mind now. We have been listening to Richard Dawkins, you know, trying to advocate the non-existence of God mildly. However, according to his own theory about natural selection, he should be able to explain how natural selection, from the mimetic point, has allowed the existence of the theory of the existence of God. I mean, it has evolved somehow, unless it has been revealed, which he denies. It must be evolving inside, you know, the fabric of culture in time. So, which would be the process that had the idea of God having evolved?
Well, I think Arthur Clarke suggested in one of his novels that aliens will reveal to us that only mammals such as ourselves even conceive of the existence of a god, partly because we have a father. Most of us have a father, and the father is a figure of authority and terror. Well, not always, but in former times, when fathers were much more hairy, and would come back covered in blood. They would probably be a symbol not only of the provision of raw meat, but also of violence and bloodshed.
We agree that God is very violent and bloodthirsty, at least according to the Old Testament. But nevertheless, how would it be born for the first time? I mean, it's difficult for somebody being a symbol of something which doesn't really exist, at least at that point, because in your experience of an early caveman, God could not exist, unless we take into consideration the theory of Julian Jaynes, of course,
well,
the bicameral mind. But in this moment, we don't want still to take it into consideration.
Now, there is, of course, the influence of thunder, which is an inexplicable, very loud voice, which, however, you cannot understand, which is following soon after very bright lights, which can be destructive, rather like laser beams, and which might set fire to your forest. I think that thunder, lightning and thunder, we should put them in this order, because that is the order in which they are perceived, might have had a big influence upon primitive man.
I think you are completely right. However, I think that thunder and lightning didn't have a symbolic value for the cavemen, who actually were very primitive even in their symbologies. Probably these lightning and thunders were triggering a lot of stress inside the minds of these cavemen, and the stress was the real cause of them to experiencing something that would lead them to perceive God.
Yeah, this is a very good theory. I was just thinking about the possible evolution of God. On the other hand, this is
this is very
now
Dawkinsian.
Yes. Well, people claim that God created the universe, not necessarily by putting every particular planet in place and painting it and pouring.
This would be cool, however.
It would be the coolest way to create the universe, but I think people, the wiser religious believers, now think that God might have actually caused the Big Bang, whereby you just push a button and creation explodes outwards. Now, in the case of most creation that explodes outwards, it would give rise to a universe with different constants. A relationship between the electron mass and proton mass, which would result in no stars or no planets. And consider, however, if there might be some internal dynamic which requires universes to come into existence which have which are likely to generate stars, planets, and life. Now, since these universes are separated from each other completely, as though they are on the other side of a black hole, it is possible that as universes give rise to universes, a kind of God could evolve within the universes, so that a God starts out in a sort of very primitive way, like a kind of amoeba, and because of the pressures of selective evolution of universes, a God would develop within the universe, so that the our Big Bang would also give expression to godness, as well as planets, stars, and then later on life. So God is not actually responsible in this case for the evolution of the universe, but is a kind of epiphenomenon of the universe itself.
This sounds very reasonable, actually we could then think that physicists should try to find a God constant of the universe. This means that there must be a constant of the universe which implies the presence of God or not.
Yes, well, at the moment they are calling the Higgs boson, which they are trying to find in Switzerland, the God particle. I don't quite know why they are calling it the God particle. It is supposed to give mass to all the other particles in the universe.
I think it's only a poetic license. In
don't you? Oh, really?
Case, yeah.
Ah, and I thought they were looking for a sort of the divine equivalent of electrons and quarks. Because in superstring, the only way in which the universe is explicable, it would seem, is superstring theory, whereby every particle has a corresponding but undetectable a superparticle, so that protons have, I forget the name, protoninos or something like that, and this is required to make the mathematics correct. So I'm wondering whether there could actually be God particles as well, which might be equivalent to the hitherto undetectable particles of superstring theory.
I've been thinking that the fact itself that we're speaking about God implies we have an idea of God. Now, one of my beliefs is that I find it very difficult to imagine a universe where something which couldn't possibly exists as an idea, because even an idea in a universe is part of the universe after all, because we are part of the universe. We are just places of the universe which move and has other properties, pay taxes eventually, our ideas, whatever they are, I mean, I wouldn't overvalue them over-evaluate them anyway, still exist inside the world and are part of the world, of the universe. So could an idea of something exist beyond the existence of that thing in all the possible aspects of the universe that we are considering? I don't know if grammatically these sentences had any sense.
Well, I think they need to be expressed mathematically, really. This is one of the problems in discussing the universe, that you cannot do this using words. That suggests to me that possibly you cannot discuss this concept of God by using words. So it will have to be something other than using words that discusses the idea of God, such as music, for example. I merely suggest music, which is a kind of more refined form of thunder.
Yes, and more easy to enjoy than mathematics, which is only for a few.
Yes, but the perception of music does not decode into actual statements or gospels.
Yes, so it's a mood.
It's a mood, yes.
Actually, God really sounds more like a mood than anything else.
Yes. Well, I mean, already we give names to fundamental particles such as charm and strangeness and beauty. So maybe we should invoke the concept of mood also.
And also physicists, I think they didn't really take into the proper consideration the element of love, you know, because love and hate, which are very subjective human categories, however, they are really existing categories inside our mind, and probably at every stage of matter in the universe itself. I mean, how could something exist inside a part of the universe, in this case us humans, and not also in another part that we wouldn't call animate or so. So actually probably even electrons and protons hate each other and they are separated, and
well, I think,
or they love themselves through gravitation.
Gravitation, now I was about to mention that, because the power which attracts everything to itself or to other things is indeed gravity, which could be regarded as a power of love, and the repulsion could be regarded as a power of hatred.
Especially as gravitation is the most mysterious of the known forces of the universe.
Yes.
They have described very well the electromagnetic ones and so, but the gravitation is a unique mystery because it's the weakest of all the forces, and indeed in the same moment the strongest, because it can produce black holes, for example, which is just the label we assign to something we cannot understand.
Yeah, yes. I mean, insofar as a black hole is the intensification to an infinite degree of gravitation, it must resemble the most profound love.
And the most profound love is allegedly also the one that led God to create the universe. So
yes.
Big Bangs, could be the ultimate explosion of love.
Yes, and the annihilation caused by the black holes is a different kind of expression of extreme attraction.
Yes. Love and hate are, after all, two sides of the same phenomenon.
They are. And also we hear that shortly after the Big Bang, within fractions of a second, there was a huge inflation of space, carrying along with it matter, which could be regarded as well, it is certainly not a force of attraction, it is a force of repulsion.
Yes, and the principle and the beginning of obesity.
Yes. Now, what would have caused inflation? I do not speak economically at the moment. It's possibly a demonic force caused inflation. So that the Big Bang occurs, but the Big Bang is a repulsion of everything from everything else.
So it is like every tendency led to its extreme becomes its opposite. So extreme love, the highest acts of love, becomes also the highest acts of hate.
Yes.
This means nothing but has a poetry
yes.
that we could explore.
But wait, in the first moments of there were no particles at all. There was simply raw energy. So one bit of raw energy is like another bit of raw energy. So there is no division in the first gush of the Big Bang. But then comes in the power, comes in inflation. This is when I think a demonic force introduced itself into the universe. And this is perhaps connected with the Manichaean concept that the devil is actually the creator of the universe. And in that sense, we owe the universe and ourselves to a demonic force rather than to a divine force.
But it comes just to my mind that this all starts from the assumption actually that a Big Bang has occurred, which is not very clear because there are a lot of deductions that lead to this belief, but isn't this just a belief after all?
Yes, there is a lot of evidence for it, but as physics breaks down in the early, it does not yet exist in the earliest moments. Therefore, we cannot really explain using mathematics and physics what occurred at the very earliest moment.
I think there is the epistemological problem of our necessity to perceive, to define a beginning, so a concept of linear time.
Yes.
Because this is what leads us to think that there has been a beginning, because we cannot think in other terms, but from the mathematical, philosophical, conceptual point of view, there is not a real difference between the beginning and the end of all times. It's just only psychological error of our minds, who actually thinks that the past has happened and the future will happen. But I think this is raw bullshit, actually, from a philosophical point of view.
And also we assume that time has the same value in the first microseconds of a cosmos as it does later on.
Exactly.
It is quite possible that so much is happening in the earliest microseconds that it takes an eternity for those microseconds to elapse.
That's true, and even in the theory of the Big Bang, they speak about different eras of the universe. One of each would follow the other one by microseconds or less, and eras of radiation, eras of I don't remember them all now. But the point is that we could be, according to this model, now in the era at the beginning of the era of life. This means of more complex forms of interaction of matter. So in the future, we could have a moment in which nothing anymore in the universe exists except living organisms. This would be a next stage of the universe, another era of the universe.
Yes. Well, it is possible that 99.99% of everything that is going to happen already happened in the first few microseconds.
Exactly.
So that what happens later on is proportionately the most microscopic aspect of a universe, and therefore could simply be a random fluctuation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's also possible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In which case, actually, it would seem that when this random fluctuation occurs, this might in fact be the death of God. If you equate God with this enormous amount of energy and activity in the first few microseconds of what went before, which are actually equivalent to eternity. And now eternity has collapsed into time.
That's fascinating. Actually, we could then see God, to keep inside the metaphors, God sacrificed himself for love for us and suiciding in a Big Bang. So the suicide of God actually has generated, and God would still be alive in the first era of the universe,
yes,
which lasted only some microseconds.
Mm-hmm.
And then subsequently died, and his species became us.
Well, yeah, this is rather similar to a human body dying, where it turns in, it lives for 80 years, and then over a period of 2 weeks it turns into worms and the bacteria and other dead things.
Mm-hmm.
Not dead things, living things, feasting on the dead. And so we are possibly equivalent to corpse beetles. And the stars and planets are all equivalent to corpse beetles and corpse worms, feeding upon the energy of the death of the god power.
Yes, and by stretching the metaphor further on, we could even imagine that being something even less noble, perhaps just only a cosmic fart.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, because if the universe continues to expand, there is only going to be left one atom in every 10 billion cubic kilometers. It will be like very thin fart.
Yes, because the typical of fart is just an expanded bubble of nothingness, which, however, still smells of shit.
Yes.
Because there are little planets of shit which become more and more distant one from another, and eventually they invade, people and other galaxies probably. And this is actually this metaphor is much more convincing than others.
Yes. Well, so basically everything that has happened in the universe has occupied a tiny proportion of the universe and is equivalent to a fart.
Yes.
The fart of the dying god.
Oh, this is interesting. I asked myself if Dawkins and Terry Pratchett are discussing about similar arguments now, because we didn't listen to the whole conversation.
Well, no.
It must be more profound than us, probably, or probably not.
Well, I think Terry Pratchett is trying to say something, but nobody looks at him, because the chap in the middle, Kenny, is talking to Richard Dawkins, and Dawkins is talking to Richard Kenny, and Terry Pratchett is just sitting over there making little gestures with his hands.
But is his name really Terry Pratchett or Rowan Atkinson?
Rowan Atkinson,
because
that's right.
That's right, it must be Rowan Atkinson.
Rowan Atkinson, the Archbishop of Canterbury.
But it looks like Terry Pratchett.
Yes. Well, it looks very like Terry Pratchett, but his name is Rowan Atkinson, and he was Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson, which brings us back to farting. So,
yeah, well.
Yes. Again, he is being ignored. He is looking patiently, and he moves his head. But they are paying no attention to him at all, which is so sad, I think.
Yes, he looks like a nice chap.
Yeah, he does look like a nice chap. You could have a half of beer with him, not a pint. He might become overexcited. In fact, they probably went off to...
they still don't talk with him.
No, I know, it is going on and on and on, and...
they talk between themselves.
Yes, they're talking between themselves, and Do you think this means that the chap in the centre, Kenny, is a little bit prejudiced against... Look, he's nodding and saying words.
He's trying to introduce himself, to intrude in the conversation.
Yes, it's very rude, you know, it's like a bore in a pub. They're having an interesting conversation about something, and then this lunatic dressed in strange clothes is nodding and mumbling to himself and saying things. The one in the middle is having a drink now, and he's going to continue his conversation with Richard Dawkins.
Even the cameraman is joining the conspiracy because he primarily films the two of them.
Yes, it's a very strange kind of debate.
See,
absolutely.
He's outside the monitor.
Excluded. I think you know that Rowan Atkinson probably has grounds for complaint in anti-religious prejudice or anti-superstition prejudice, and I don't know what Rowan Atkinson. That's still happening. I mean, this is a remarkably long time in a debate.
Yes, a debate without... Actually, the debate is between the moderator and one of the speakers.
And one of the speakers, yes.
All the supposed speakers.
Which is peculiar. Yes, so we have decided that the universe is basically a fart of a dying, unprovable bundle of energy which existed from eternity and then stopped with a fart.
Yes. So the big crunch doesn't exist after all.
Well,
it's just...
I think it probably doesn't exist. The way in which you will get subsequent universes is from black holes in our era, which will which will give birth to big bangs in alternate dimensions, which we are not able to peer into. No, so the stage we are going through now probably is the creation of many multiple universes, which is no use to us whatsoever. But this is the process of evolution of universes, and the universe does not care a fart for us or for God.
Yeah, of course.
Perhaps, probably.
Actually, I'm surprised nobody has started to sell real estate in parallel universes yet, because there are people who have been selling piece of the moon, you know, and stuff, and other, or hibernation for being for people that wants to be born again in the future, which is ridiculous, because who would care to take them to life again? I mean, they would just throw them again.
Well, we would not be very much use in the future, even in 200 years' time, unless civilization has descended and we were quite strong and could go out and kill sheep and things like that. Alternative universes, well, forget those for the moment and think that superstring theory requires about 14 dimensions, of which about 11 are rolled up very small, so that they're rolled up so small that you cannot detect where they are.
It seems to me like a bad science fiction, like bad fantasy story.
Bad fantasy
story, not even science fiction.
But I would actually sell real estate in rolled up dimensions, because if you unroll them, they could be very large.
Yes. So you can offer a very little square meter price,
yes,
and promising big surfaces for that. Good value for your money.
Huge surfaces. And easily transportable, because of them being rolled up very small. Now I think actually that when we say rolled up very small, of the 11 other rolled up dimensions, there will be the same dimension associated with every electron or atom, probably, and from their point of view they're all one big dimension.
Well, this triggers my memory about the theory about the French physicist Jean-Aimé Charon, who actually theorized that every electron is actually intrinsically a mini black hole in which information is stored. So actually, this could this was quite an interesting theory actually, and which would imply also a kind of immortality of information because all our information would be stored in our electrons, and so that when we die, this information would be going around and being wasted through the stupid process of entropy. But so could we exploit this economically? By selling just electrons, you know, as black holes? With all the information of the world?
Well, this is essentially what Wikipedia is. And it's free. This is one of the democratic things about black hole.
But I've noticed that you cannot edit a lot of topics in Wikipedia which are of particularly interesting political criticality. So that it's free, but it's not free, because if you and I try to change, to edit things that happen differently than Wikipedia pretend us to believe, they don't allow you. So it means there is a kind of conservation of political beliefs, of orthodoxy, of politically correct views.
Yes. Of course, information requires probably a perceiver of that information. Because without the perceiving of the information, what value is the information?
Yeah, it's I got stuck in this loop because now I'm trying to perceive information.
Yeah. It's very difficult to perceive information because this is what is causing the words to come out of you is information.
But I'm trying to perceive the information from within me.
Yes.
So it leads to loops where the information doesn't come out from my mouth anymore, which is of little use for other people.
This is probably.
Yes, for a moment they were filming Rowan Atkinson.
But now Rowan Atkinson is playing with things on his lap, and no, it is Richard Dawkins again, and now they are focusing on. Oh yes, he's smiling, but he's looking at that pretty girl because she was looking at him. Oh, he's making eyes at her, and he's paying no attention any longer to the debate which is going on. He's signalling to the pretty... Look, he's moving his head away.
It's a pretty boy.
It's a pretty boy. It's a Ganymede, the cupbearer of the god, or gods. And oh yes, he's very attracted, obviously, by the boy girl. Because God,
it could be girl though.
A girl boy, or
a girl boy.
A girl boy. Yes, he sees some hope in a conversation with the girl boy, because there is no hope in having a conversation with either Richard Dawkins or the moderator. But thinking of the girl boy as Ganymede, the cupbearer of the gods who brought wine to Zeus, I was wondering why we don't have a cupbearer of the wine in the Christian religion. Now, it's difficult to have a cupbearer of the wine to Allah because of certain prohibitions, later prohibitions upon the drinking of alcohol. These are not fixed and binding, in fact, and I think the original idea was you didn't drink too much alcohol. But possibly Allah has become angry because of denial of alcohol from a Ganymede person, a Huri in heaven. This denial of alcohol has been enforced by Islamist fanatics who, for instance, prohibit it in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, there are a lot of things that religious fanaticism brings into being, which was not in the original text. For example, the fact that Catholic priests are not allowed to have a sexual life is not really written anywhere on the Bible or the Gospels or wherever. So it's a pure invention, and so on. I mean, there are a lot of big differences between what is. So it's very it's very curious to understand where all this evolution of theology is coming from. If the word is God is absent.
Yes, well, people have been very, very busy, and certainly in the Jewish religion, writing the Talmud, for example, and to explain what it all means, and also all of the explanations of Islam, which are fill much more space than the original Quran does.
And the other question is, why did this divinity stop to dictate Bibles and other religious scripts to anyone, especially now that we live in the information age? So it should be easy because it could text, or send emails, to the popes. Because all the Bible has not been written overnight. I mean, it took hundreds of thousands of years, to put all that knowledge together, and then nothing anymore. So you don't have amendments, or you don't have changes, or you don't have some new statement about a particular life, modern life, and so.
It all really happened between about 400 BC and 800 AD, during the time of prophets.
Yes, and
I'm not talking economically. I'm referring to religious prophets.
The one that were more right than the economical ones.
Yeah. Although I do an injustice to the Sikh religion and to Baha'i, which
Pratchett is talking again.
Oh yes, he is.
And still with a young boy.
Yeah. Yes.
Girl boy.
The girl boy. Yes.
Yes, this kind of Luciferian eye.
Yes.
It's it's Luciferian. No?
Yeah, well, in fact, when you do that, they grow longer.
Yeah.
On the screen, it's quite obvious.
It really tries to impress the boy girl, the girl boy.
And
but the moderator doesn't care. When Dawkins is speaking, he's listening eagerly. But now
he's playing with his pencil.
Yes, exactly. Now he's playing with a pencil, and he leaves.
Yes. No,
It doesn't look. It doesn't look like a scientific discussion.
No, not to me.
No.
Now the moderator is talking to Dawkins again, and
without even answering.
Paying no attention to Terry Pratchett
or Rowan Atkinson.
Mr.
Bean.
Yeah.
So actually, we put them together.
Mr. Bean. Yes, basically. So it's quite a strange debate that is going on, really. And you feel sympathy almost for Mr. Bean. And you want to join in, and
he has nice hair and nice beard, and
yes.
I think that he's there because of these reasons. If he would look very, horrible, like kind of
Torquemada.
Yeah, exactly.
Mind you, I do not know what Torquemada looked like, but I don't imagine he looked very nice.
Like the gob of Notre Dame,
How
it's called?
The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
The Hunchback of Notre Dame. He would not be there defending God's role in reality.
Oh well, God is supposed to have white hair, a lot of white hair. And he's
like Terry Pratchett.
Yes, and lie on the edge of a cloud and look down, and sometimes point his finger.
So they choose theologists which looks...
for an Archbishop of Canterbury, you need somebody who looks like God.
And speaks good English.
Yes, quite good English, because we don't need to speak Latin any longer in England. Whereas the Pope needs to speak not only Latin, but also at least 14 or 15 different languages, so that whenever he arrives in, for instance, Portugal or Brazil, he will speak in the language of the country.
Of the Canterbury.
Yes, the Canterbury. And he also speaks, there's been a tradition of speaking in German, despite Martin Luther, who also spoke in German and Latin. And more in German.
The Pope has also the necessity to protect himself against the will of God, typically putting himself in this Papa Mobile, this white crystal coffin that should protect him from the will of God.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Which in a way is a big underestimating of the power of God on one side, because clearly God can go through a crystal coffin with his will if he wants to kill him. And on the other side is also a very big, how you say, lack of faith in the will of God, because actually nothing moves that God doesn't want.
Personally, I would, rather than a Pope mobile made of crystal, I would prefer a Faraday cage, or something designed by Tesla, so that you are surrounded by bolts of lightning all the time.
Also because I completely agree, yes. No, I cannot add anything to this.
Well, we could actually approach the Vatican with a suggestion for a new and safer design of Pope mobile.
And actually, which can be proved then by creating artificial lightning to which the Pope would survive and prove to be immortal spiritually.
Or it might also improve his health. A kind of therapy, electrotherapy.
And
if there was a little leakage of...
and it would reinforce the concept, the meme of his linkage with God, because the lightning would be perceived as coming from God directly.
Yep.
So it's like a kind of caress of God, because it strikes him without killing him.
Yes.
So this is a great effect, actually. It should be the next marketing campaign for
of the Vatican.
Yes, of course, because they're losing faithful. Because a lot of people believe in television now.
Well, in fact, it's like a kind of moving miracle. The majority of people would not know anything about Faraday cages or Tesla.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So you could have the Pope making this kind of triumphal entrance in every country, and be struck by continuous lightning which never kill him, and actually only show how God cares about him just by proving his mortal immortality.
There seems
that's
the way it should happen.
I think they will do it at one point. It's inevitable. They just didn't come to the idea.
Yes. Well, the more that America turns against science and denies the rules of physics and so forth, the more ignorant the world population will become of the fundamental facts of reality.
Yes, the manufacturing of miracle in the future will be probably the key secret to have the power. So this will be probably, we will see much more. We even see alien invasions, which will be probably staged and completely unreal, but I will justify the next war on terror. It will be not war on terror in sense of terrorism, but war
on our own terror.
Yes. Not really, against the terror of the aliens.
Yes.
The war on our own terror, it's not so bad.
This will be preceded by a lot of bad science fiction movies.
They already started.
So that we will be completely prepared for the arrival of the non-peaceful aliens.
After all, you just need to make credible videos that you would just broadcast inside the news channel instead of the cinemas, and to say that it's true, and that's it. And there is already the technique to do that. Just have only to arrive to that point.
Oh, well, you just need an agreement between world governments to bombard their population with...
yes, it's very popular now. It's almost banal.
Yes, the problem is getting Iran to agree, probably.
Yeah, the fact that actually people don't really believe so much anymore in this kind of terror threats, and so actually they need really some Martians or some Venus creatures or some Europa monsters.
Who do not possess all the superpowers of aliens in science fiction, because their weapons are just too powerful. They can evaporate not only worlds but also stars and make them go supernova. So we have to have relatively impotent aliens invading us whose technology can only really be about 15 years ahead of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a particularly implausible scenario, so this is the one that we'll choose.
Yeah, or even backward aliens who have less technology than us.
But they are more cruel.
Yes, yes, they're... well, for example, because there are billions of them and they're quite small, and they need a new world. And all they can do is sting us, whereas we can use very powerful weaponry to try to shoot them out of the air.
Yes, and unfortunately we will only destroy the countries that eventually will be the real target of this staged historical events.
Yeah,
So actually, they will attack the aliens and by mistake destroy some innocent country, and they will send a letter of sympathy to.
Well, it could be Iran, which is destroyed.
Yeah, if they don't attack Iran quite rapidly, they will have to say that
they will have to save Iran.
They save Iran from aliens,
from alien
Absolutely.
invasion.
Yes, I think that this is quite likely. Yeah.
No, well, we just need to see which particular movies are being produced and are already being shown to detect which memes are being put into our minds. And it will be heroic and altruistic of the Americans when they have been insulted by Iran so many times. For instance, by Ahmadinejad going to New York, that was an insult. To turn the other cheek and to save Iran from the invasion, which the alien invasion, which the Persians themselves are not completely aware of.
Of course, they are the first victims.
Yeah, they are the first victims. Their minds are controlled by the alien invaders. In order to liberate their minds, it is necessary to invade and
to kill bodies.
Quite a lot of bodies, which are possessed by aliens.
State-of-the-art exorcism.
Yes.
In a way, yes.
Yes, you can regard the American armed forces as being a force of exorcists.
Yes.
And Richard Dawkins is still talking, and now he is filling the screen, and he's moving his hands as though playing the piano, and the moderator is not looking at him at all. But Terry Pratchett is... Terry Pratchett has said something. And the moderator is looking at him as in amazement, as though a pig can speak. It's suspicious. Yes. And look!
He has his moment of glory now.
Yes, yes. Now look how high is.
Look, he goes immediately to listen to the answer, because he does not. I really feel sympathy for.
Yeah, so do I as well.
For Rowan Atkins.
Yes, this is a great pity. Well, we can call the first half of this debate about the nature of God to a pause.
Okay, yes.
I think so.
So we leave people who are eventually listening to us have their own meditation about that.
I would think so. There is a lot to think about in this matter. And but I would like to thank you, Signor Quaglia, and Anthony Kenny, who is now
reading our names probably, but we cannot.
It was mute.
Actually, it's a white.
It's a completely blank sheet of paper.
He's pretending.
And
he made a dirty joke with
Terry Pratchett, and Terry Pratchett became happy. He also has a white sheet of paper as well. It contains all of his thoughts on the subject.